Hey y'all, in today's video, I'm going to jump right in. I'm not going to waste any time because this is going to be a longer video than what I'm normally used to. And the reason is because I'm going to show you both hands. And this set is pretty simple, but I want you to watch the full video if you can, because it has a lot of tips, tricks, and techniques involved in it. It's a simple set, but it's a lot of technique involved in this. And it's something that I've just recently started doing, so I wanted to show you guys. All right, to start off, she came in and I soaked off her set. I did my natural nail prep and then I went in and applied tips. And here I'm just taking my scissors and I'm cutting off her length. Now, normally I would also go in and cut her shape, but today we're going for a tapered square, and I'm not going to cut the shape. I'm going to get the shape from my application. So that's the technique that I'm going to be showing you guys today, which is basically just sculpting over tips. So that's why I'm not going in and shaping these tips right away. Now on this hand, some of the tips were a little bit too wide, so I did go in and just do a little bit of shaping on these few fingers, but that's it for these tips. So after I've blended out the tips, I'll go in and brush away any dust, and then I'll come in with my nail brush, spray it with alcohol, and I'm going to cleanse the nail plate, and I'm going to start from the cuticle to the tip. So I'm brushing that product away from her nail bed. Next, I'll come in with my dehydrator and I'll do both hands, and then I'll come in with my primer and I will prime twice. So for this set, I'm only going to be using two colors. The first is the Valentino Cotton Candy, and then this one I got from my local nail supply store. And there's the brand name, but it didn't have just a name to that color. So to start off, I'm going to add a clear base, and any time that I'm using a pigmented color, such as the red, I'm gonna start off and do all of my nudes first. And this is because simply I do not want to dirty up my monomer. Now here, this is the sticker that I'm going to be using, and it's from Nail Slaps. I found them on Instagram, and I was just measuring it to that nail to make sure that it was going to fit. All right, let me kind of explain to you this technique of sculpting over tips. When you have a form, when you fit a form under the natural nail, that fits perfectly and specifically to that nail bed, so you always get a better fit instead of tips. Well, since I'm using tips, I'm going to focus on using my acrylic to achieve that same outcome. Now, how I do that is that when I apply my acrylic, I'm going to focus on her natural sidewalls, and once I see where her natural sidewalls start, I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to tuck in that acrylic to completely match her sidewalls. So that acrylic is going to come straight out from her nail. It's not going to be wider, so where I'll have to end up filing more or trying to create another shape. No, I'm going to apply that acrylic exactly how I want the outcome of the shape to be. Now, in doing this technique, there are main things that you have to focus on, which is having control over your acrylic. You have to make sure that your powder to ratio is on point so you can control the shape of the acrylic, and then also your sidewalls. As you see here, I have that sidewall completely clean. So when I go in and get ready to file, all that unused tip that wasn't needed will just file right off. All right, moving on to the pointer. This one is just going to be a French. So I'm going to apply my first bead and I'm going to sculpt out the shape that I desire for my French, and then I will apply my cuticle bead, and then I will leave that and let it dry. All right, moving on to the pinky, I'm going to be doing the edge design, which is the cut out of the free edge. So I'm an acrylic tech. I almost always work with the acrylic. So you can do this design by painting with polish, but I just prefer to use acrylic because I always feel like it's much crisper, cleaner, and smoother. So when doing this design with acrylic, I have done it before, and let me tell you guys, I have messed up. I went in, did my cut out, I applied my acrylic, I went in with my X-Acto knife, I cut it out, and then I went in with my color. And then when I capped it and came to finish filing it, I ended up having to file off too much on the side and also too much on the top because I was trying to file it into shape, but I didn't have the edge ratio right. So I was watching Young Nail's video one day, and here he goes doing the edge nail, and I'm thinking, okay, he's kind of doing the same thing I'm doing, but I missed a very important step. So he went in, he applied his color, the complete color, his whole structure, and then he went in and he filed it into shape. After he did that, he came in and he cut it out. So that's the main thing that you want to do with this technique. So the pinky and then this is the thumb, those both are going to be the edge nails. And as you can see, everything that I'm applying, I'm still applying it as if I'm creating my shape. So this whole set, you'll see that first technique throughout it. So always watch how I'm applying my acrylic. I'm tucking in the sides and I'm smoothing it out, and I'm creating my final shape with my application. This is such a pretty red, but let me tell you guys, it was getting on my nerves. I mean, it was taking forever to dry. So beads like this, you always want to make sure that you are splitting it up. You want to do as many beads as you need to. I did 2 beads here and that kind of got the job done, but it takes so long to dry that once you set it down on the nail, it wants to just spread out immediately. So I'm being very careful when applying this red. All right, now that I have my foundation set and everything has had time to dry, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna file my French, and then I'm gonna go over to those edge nails and I'm gonna file those into shape. I'm gonna act as if this was my finished filing, so I'm gonna file it into the shape I want. Once I've done that, I'm gonna come in with my e-file and I'm just gonna use my fine carpet bit, and I'm gonna start right there where her side wall meets the free edge. And I'm gonna lightly take the side of that bit, and first I'm gonna just kind of mark out where I want it to go, and then I'm gonna start applying pressure and making that cut even deeper. And as you can see, when it comes to the free edge, I'm going down a little bit further because I know once I cap this, I'm still going to file it a little bit more into shape, and I'm gonna file that free edge, make it nice and straight. Now I did mess up and go too far down past where my tip is, well, where the sidewall meets the free edge. I went past that, but I'll show you how to fix that. Now to get to the other side, you have to be really careful. So what I did was I flipped her finger around and I started at the top where I already had my cut, and then I just brought that e-file, the bit down, and I'm being very gentle. I'm just almost like skipping over, and you don't have to worry about making these lines perfect, because once I have the outline done, I'm going to come in with my hand file and then I'll perfect it. Now I'm going to go back here and I'm going to add a small bead just so I can fill in those little spots where I went too far down. And I'm going to do this very carefully because I already went in, remember, and filed those edges. So I want to make sure that I'm not going in and messing that up. I just want to fill in those missing spots that I had. Once I have all of that finished, I'm going to come in finally with my red, and just like any edge design, French, side cut, V-cuts, you want to push that product up into those walls, up into the edges of that sidewall that you have made. Now I'm taking my red and I'm going to overlap just a little bit because I want to make sure that I'm pushing that product all the way up against. Now, even though I'm pushing that product up and I'm going to overlap, I'm still trying to be neat, because you can go in and you can, basically make a mess, and you'll end up having to file too much into your pink color. So you don't want to do that. You still want to apply it nice and neatly. Now once all of that has had time to dry, I'm going to go in with my e-file and I'm just going to go over the surface and make sure that I take off any excess of that red that has gotten onto the pink. Now once I've done that, I'm going to go in and I'm going to cap both of these, because just like I said, that cotton candy, I'm not sure, y'all, if it is a strength powder or not. I don't want to lie on Valentino, but I'm not sure, so I'm going to cap it. And especially the red, I know that one's not. That's just a design color, so I'm going to cap these babies. Moving on to the opposite hand, I'm going to start with my nude colors and I'm going to start at the cuticle area. And when I do that, I know that this Valentino is a medium set. So if I start at the cuticle area, that's going to give me time to walk that bead down and get it into the shape that I want. Now I didn't have enough acrylic there, so all I did was take a small bead and I placed it at the free edge and then I blended it back. And I'm still tucking in my sides and making sure that those sides are clean. I really feel like your side walls make such a difference when it comes to finish file shaping. So that's why I'm taking so much time right here in my application to smooth my nail out. Now this set is a freestyle. I did see a couple of photos that I did take inspiration from. I seen these colors matched up in a different set and I really loved it, so I knew I wanted to do something like this. So when I did the other hand, when I started off with the first hand, when I got to this one, I felt like I had too much red on that one. So when I came to this one, I went in and you're gonna see that I applied more of the pink and less of the red. And really all I did was I did one less edge nail. So I guess I didn't do too much, but I said I gotta tone it down some kind of way. So I'm just working through the set as you know I'm going through it. I'm just trying to figure it out as I'm working through it. I guess that's what a freestyle is. As I'm working that French into shape, I'm going to take the opposite hand and I'm going to match those up, making sure that I have them both lined up the same. So I'm starting this edge nail, and y'all, I just completely jumped into my e-file and I forgot to file it into shape on my Atlanta, y'all. I'm telling you, sometimes I tell my clients, if y'all see me slipping, help me, stop me. If you see something wrong, tell me, please. Your girl needs help sometimes. But I caught myself, thankfully, during the middle of this, and I'll go in and I'll stop and I'll file it into shape, and then I'll come back with my e-file. Here I'm going in with my red, and I'm just pressing that red into those sides, pressing it in and then blending it out. You still want to make sure that your edge is blended, flat, straight, not sticking out, all of that good stuff. Now I want you guys to kind of focus on your side walls when you're putting that red in. Look at that. Both of those sides are even with each other. Sometimes we don't pay attention, and you can fill in that red, and on one side it could be further up and then the other side will be further down. So you always want to make sure that while you're applying your acrylic, you're paying attention to stuff, little stuff like that, details like that you want to pay attention to. So once all of this is dry, I'm going to come in with my e-file and just clean it up. I'm going to take off the excess that's on the pink and make sure that you see nothing but sharp lines coming through. So now that I have both hands done, I'm going to go in with my e-file, and I've started using these safety bits. I used to use that fine bit that I used to cut out. I used to always just use that, but I've been doing better about using these safety bits. I feel more comfortable using them, and you can't take away peace of mind when using the e-file. I just know that there's no possible way I can cut my client and it still does a great job at getting in the cuticle area and sealing that. So yes, I love me a good safety bit. So after I use my e-file, I'm going to come in with my hand file and I'm just going to define the shape. It's very minimal because of the shaping we did in the application. And then after that, I'm going to go in and apply my sticker. And I'm sorry guys, I lost the clip to that one. I don't know what happened to it. But I applied the sticker and then I top coated it with a base gel because I want to make sure that it's going to stay in. And then I went in with the final top coat with my Young Nails top coat. And that's it. I really loved how this set came out. I love the contrast between the pink and the red. I love her shape. I felt like the shape was really on point with her nails, her size, everything. So if you guys have any questions, comments, suggestions, just let me know and I'll see you in the next video.